Welcome to today's workshop. We are going to focus on creating a standalone journal or workbook or a companion journal or workbook for your course or book. And what we're going to be doing is talking about concepts. I'm going to share with you some examples and show you a way that you can easily design your pages using a program such as Canva.com. So here's what we'll cover today. We're going to talk about how to come up with an idea for a journal or workbook, the differences between journals and workbooks, examples of journals and workbooks, ideas for the types of pages that you can include in your publications, because what you can do is create a template, and that template can then serve as an outline for an online course or for a book or for future journals or workbooks. Because once you create that first template, future ones are easier to create. And then, as always, we'll have some action steps. So let's talk first about the difference between a journal and a workbook. So typically a journal, it can be blank pages or line pages that are blank. It could be a thought, what am I thinking of? It can be a writing prompt, something that triggers a thought or an idea, or it can be on a specific topic. A journal can be much more than blank lines or blank pages. It can help people capture activities. Maybe it will help them create new habits. Maybe you have a journal that will help people track their activity towards healthier living, maybe getting daily walk or dancing regularly, or in that type of journal where you're encouraging them to dance regularly, they can have a page in the journal where they list their favorite songs to dance to. And so a journal can be so much more than blank pages. But how a journal differs from a workbook is journals typically are ways to record content versus a workbook, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So a journal typically provides ways to capture activities and memories, and the pages or sets of pages, whether they're 2 pages or 4 pages, they typically repeat themselves. So if it's like a right-hand page and a left-hand page that go together, and then you would just replicate those. Or maybe there are 4 pages in that set, and then you replicate it, and then you have your book. You have introductory content, you have marketing content, you have your title page, and there you have your journal. And it can be that easy. And you can even create a branded cover, because maybe you're going to have other journals in the series and you want them to have something that shows that they're part of a series, because people like to collect books in a series. So they can be generic, or they can be on specific topics such as productivity, health, meditation, course creation, plumbing. I put plumbing as just something totally random, just to indicate that you can have a journal on anything. We have people who have journals where they make note of different types of corn or recipes or cars or anything that you can think of. So anything that anybody has a hobby or an interest in, you could create a journal around. And if you like creating journals, you can create multiple journals once you create the structure of your first journal. You just swap it out for the different focus area. Now, a workbook typically walks people through a process, and each page is typically different. You can have training, or you can just have places for people to record content. But each page is typically different as you walk people step by step through a process, which is perfect to become a companion to a course or a book. Now, just as an aside, a journal can also be a companion to a course or a book. You just need to outline what you want people to record. For example, this week, the lesson I studied in the course is, and they talk about what they learned that day, or by going through that lesson, and then the action step I took, or the action steps I took after going through that lesson, and then they have a way of recording their journey. So you can use journals as part of course content. However, workbooks, how they differ, are they typically walk people through step by step through a process that builds from one step to another. Now, you can include some training in the workbook, or it can be a companion to the book or the course. So what I like to do is jot down one paragraph discussing a step and then giving action steps to go along with the paragraph that I just shared. And then that is a lesson. That can be a lesson in your course. It could be just in written format, or you can add an audio to it where you read that paragraph and post it as a video that goes along with your with the written content. Workbooks are wonderful for providing ways for people to record answers and results, because they're writing basically a manual. And if it's a bound book, they're more likely to keep it, and then they will have the answers, so they'll know moving forward. They'll just flip open the book to go back to what they discovered and what they learned. And so it can be a resource guide to people moving forward. So the first thing you want to do is you want to decide on the purpose of your journal or workbook. And I created a workbook page for you based on these next two slides. So what I'm going to do is go through these slides first, and then I'm going to show you what I did to take this content and turn it into a page, which you have right here on the webcast page. You can download it there, and if you're watching this as a replay, it's right there in the members area. So you want to give thought first to which type of journal or workbook would you like to create? And then there are places to check off. Do you want to create a standalone journal or workbook? A workbook or journal to go along with your book or your course? Now, do you see here what I want to point out is I could ask these questions without leaving those little lines for people to check. However, just by adding those little lines, it immediately makes people want to check rather than just think about it, because you want people to record their results. The other thing I could have done is to draw lines that people can write. But here, this question called for a way for people to just quickly check off their choices. And then there's a place here where they can check off, I'm leaning more towards creating a journal or a workbook, and then they can kind of narrow things down. Now, the other thing that you might want to put here is, because if you're teaching them a course and this is at the beginning of the course, you may want to have another check section that says not quite sure yet. So what I would do is, let me just go into here, and I'm just going to go down one line, and I'm just going to tab over till I get there, and I'm going to put not sure yet. And I'll just move this up a drop. And that way it covers everything, because they may not know yet. And that makes it okay for them so that people don't feel pressured or panicked. You really want to equip people and have them feel very grounded, and that wherever they are, that they're in the perfect place. And then here's a place where they can capture an idea. And I didn't put that at the top of the page, and I'm saying all of this out loud so you can get a sense of my thinking as I created these journal pages or these workbook pages. And that is, I could have put my initial idea for my publication. I could have put that up at the top, but I didn't on purpose, because I wanted to trigger thoughts and get their wheels turning before asking them what they're thinking about. I wrote here my initial idea. So this could be an introductory content for a course, because maybe you haven't taught them about journals yet or talked about different ideas. However, people have a sense of what they might want to create. And so this way they're not locked into it, but they get to capture their ideas. So here's an example of one of my journals. I'm going to show you Journals and Workbooks. So you have the cover, and the cover is, I created it so it's a brand, so that I believe I have 5 or 6 in this brand, and they all look exactly the same. It just changes that center line of text. So it says the Busy Authors Course Creation Journal, and then it has an image, and then it has my logo, etc. So every time I create a new topic, the only thing I change is that center image below the word journal, and the italicized text where it says course creation, I would just put in book marketing or virtual book tours or whatever the topic is. Then the next one of the next pages is how to use this journal. It's a nice idea to have a one page of instructions that walks people through how to use your publication. And that will help them, because it might be obvious to you, but it might not be obvious to your readers. So you really want to equip people. So there's a page on how to use the journal. So then for future journals, I would just read this and make any changes as it applies to the topic of the new journal. Then I have 2 facing pages. It says day 1, and it's a 30-day journal. So the next 2 pages, it would say day 2, day 3. Well, the facing page has the date, so they get to capture the day number and the date, because they may skip a couple of days here and there, and it will be interesting for them to capture the date that they went through the process. And then I have 4 different writing prompts. And this is I think it's a 5x8 size book. And they have 4 different writing prompts. And so for each book in the series, there are different prompts. Some of them cross over where there's some duplication. However, on the Busy Authors Productivity Journal, I talk about different things than I talk about in a course creation journal. So those little writing prompts, as you go to create your next journals, those might change based on the topic. However, I have the layout, I have the images. The image on the far right 2 pages, that image in the center is called a flourish. And you can get those at openclipart.org, openclipart, CLIPART.org. It's a public domain site, and you get the highest quality image that they'll let you download, and then it becomes part of your book. So I have the formatting, the font, and all I do is just swap out here and there, so subsequent journals could be created even more quickly. So that's an example of a journal, and it has repeating pages, and it captures specific content based on the topic of the book. And again, it could be completely blank journal, or it can be specific. I like to have specific journals because I feel it takes people on a journey through a process. So here's an example of one of my workbooks, and this goes along with a course. And so in the book, I don't say module, I say section. So in that page in the center of the screen there, it says section 1. However, in the course content, it says module 1. It just wouldn't make sense in a published book to say module 1, so I just changed the word to section. And then I talk about how many activities there are going to be, and then I have a little circle down, little rounded corner rectangle down at the bottom where I talk about what's covered in this section. And then I have a 2-page spread. On the left-hand side, it says activity number 2. It could say step 2 or day 2. It's completely up to you, but it walks people through the process. And then it has the date, again, so they can see when they go through it. So that's where I have the paragraph. There's actually 2 paragraphs of text there that lets them know what they're going to focus on during this step. And then at the bottom, I have that on every page, on every left-hand spread page, where it's basically a way to record their accomplishments at the end of each day. So they have a little journal section, even though every single day is a different activity and a different worksheet to lead them through a process that builds one to another. every single day has the continuity of that bottom left section is the exact same on every activity page. So you can see how easily it would be to replicate it. The hardest part in replicating a workbook is the worksheets on the right-hand side, because they're not going to be the same format from topic to topic. You could, if you strategically thought about it, you could. However, I find that that the worksheets change based on what the activity is, and the activities don't go in the same sequence if they are creating a course than if they are setting up a Pinterest account, for example. However, on the left-hand side, you can see you can still have that same format of the activity number, the date, the title. A tricky part is I wanted to keep the title so it was all on one line, so I had to be creative with my wording. So that took a little bit of juggling. And then I wanted to have one little paragraph that talks about in today's action step, and where they get like one sentence what it's about, and then just a little instruction there about how to take action. So that would be an example of a workbook where every single activity is different and it leads them one to another, yet they do have that journal section at the bottom left of what I accomplished today. So here are some examples of types of pages and content that you can include in your journals and workbooks. So on the left-hand side, what you have is you can provide direction on specific topics. And then it's always nice to have a notes section so people can record their ideas and their notes. And then on the right-hand side, you can provide opportunities for people to write about and develop strategies. Now, I want to show you things that make an attractive and successful workbook or journal, and that is not a lot of text. You want to have ways to trigger ideas, but you want to have yummy ways for people to record their thoughts and check things off and dive into the page. So a couple of ways to accomplish that is, do you notice that even though there's a way to capture text at the top and then there are bullet points in the middle, they all have the 3 lines, so it has consistency. Do you notice how the spacing between each section is exactly the same? You have that consistency. And by doing that, you make it really easy for people to dive in and not feel overwhelmed. Now let me just bring back up the page here. That's why on the left-hand side, I typically have more text. So on the right-hand side, I can be more open and let people kind of free flow and think and capture their ideas. So this is not like the sealed in cement or written in stone way to write a journal. This is just the format that I have found useful, what I enjoy when I'm going through a journal or workbook, and having published now 15 journals and workbooks that I have found to be useful and based on my own needs as well as the feedback that I've gotten from readers. So you can take all this with a grain of salt and then you develop your own style that makes sense to you. But I'm hoping that you're going to find this helpful to help you in designing your workbooks and journals. So on the left-hand side, I want to show you here, these are pages that are not in order in the book. I just picked 2 different pages in the book because I wanted to show you an example. So on the left-hand section, I created these little rectangle boxes, and I gave the readers the challenge or the assignment to go and do some research and then record their research. And I put each answer, I put 3 different sections so that they had several places where they can do some cross comparisons. And I thought that would be useful because in this course, they're learning how to create a challenge experience. And so I wanted them to go and check out different challenge experiences so they can decide and pick and choose what they liked about a challenge experience so that they could use it as an idea, not the content, but the concept and the format and the well, for example, maybe they liked it that there was a daily tip that got emailed each day, or maybe they liked it that there were live calls, or whatever it was that they liked about the challenge, or maybe they liked it that there was images, that each day had a little image that had a number on it, so it made it easy to go through the content. Well, this is a way for them to record it. And then on the right hand page, my first journal had no books on the right hand side, no journals. It had a picture of my original book from like 10 years ago or 11 years ago, on the page. But then as I created each subsequent journal, I was able to add more and more to the marketing page. So you see a lot of time books will have a marketing page where they share the links and how people can access the rest of their work. Now you'll notice in the rectangle at the top, you notice the branding is all the same. Those are all 5x8 journals, and they have ways to record those 4 writing prompts. And I have a little training in the front and a little marketing in the back. And then the bottom books in the bottom rectangle, those are all 8.5 by, actually 8x10. Those are all 8x10, and those are workbooks. And you'll see the bottom right, the bottom 3 to the right, they all have similar branding. It's a 30-day challenge, and all of those have courses to go with them. So what you do is you create subsequent journals. If you want to have them be part of a series, find a way to tie them together in the title by having the title section, the name of the author section, maybe the color families, however you tie it together, because so that you don't want the covers to look exactly the same, because people will think it's the same book. So you want to have the format and then switch it up with images and different words, and so it looks like different books, but yet it looks like part of a series, because you'll sell more books that way, because people will want other books in your series. So you do have access to these slides so that you can refer back to them for ideas for when you create your own workbooks and journals. And then here are the journal pages. This is from the Book Marketing Journal. I showed you an example of a different journal earlier. This one has different writing prompts. Tactics that are working, results I am experiencing, what I did to market my book today. Well, it doesn't say today because I didn't have room and I want it to be on one line. So I said what I did to market my book, and then what I am grateful for. And I really thought about, okay, on the topic of book marketing, what would be really useful? What would be the top 4 things that would be really useful for the users of this journal? And let that guide you so that it really becomes a useful resource for your readers. You can create just a book, just a journal, just a workbook, any of the 2, or you can create a set of 3. So on the far right-hand side, I have my book, 21 Ways to Launch a Successful Virtual Book Tour. It's a step-by-step book. What I did is I based my workbook and my course on that book, but it doesn't look, the branding isn't exactly the same because it is not a replication of the book. I drew from the book, but it's not a replication. So that's why I didn't brand it with the exact same colors. However, the journal in the middle, it's a little smaller, so I show it there a little bit smaller, and that has those journal pages like this, where the book on the left is the workbook that goes along with the course. And then you can sell them as a set from your website or from Etsy. I believe on Amazon you can even sell books as a set. I'm not sure. I know you can sell them as a set in Kindle. However, you do not want to offer workbooks or journals as Kindle books. That is against Amazon's policies because people can't print them off, and it would be frustrating for people. However, there may be a way to bundle books. I'm not sure. That would be worth looking into if you want to sell a set on Amazon. You can also cross-reference in at the beginning and at the end of each book to cross-reference your other publications. So I'm hoping that this is I'm hoping that this is sparking ideas for you. So what you want to do is you want to create pages that set the stage. So on this left-hand side, it says set your intention. And so at the beginning of the journal, I'm asking them, what excites you most about ... whatever your topic is. This happens to be a journal on virtual book tours. But they have a way to capture their enthusiasm. And I'm setting the stage and letting them know this is a topic to get excited about. So what are you excited about? So rather than just diving into teaching and doing and working, I want to get people emotionally invested. So what on your topic can you do to get people emotionally invested in your topic area? And I think that will help them take ownership of the book that they just purchased or the course that they're taking, because they had to dive into their feelings and think about what am I excited about. And then you can even have, if you have a Facebook group or live calls, you can then discuss this, and this again brings it to life even further. And then they're setting the stage in the second question: what would you like to accomplish in the next 30 days? So rather than just throwing them into the pit of the universe of here's all the knowledge in the world, you're giving them a specific focus, 30 days. Oh, 30 days. This and then helping them develop a 30-day plan so that it's not what do you want to do for the rest of your life? It's what do you want to do in the next 30 days? So in an activity that I talked to you about earlier, I had suggested that you give thought to what do you want to accomplish over the course of the next year. Then once you have that thought in place, look at those goals, look at that goal, and decide what can I do in the next 90 days to help me reach my year-long goal. So what you're doing is you're walking people through like stepping stones, step by step through a journey. And then I have another question that will get them stirring up their emotions and helping them gain to have ownership over this process. And it says, what will it be like to reach and connect with more readers who are interested in your topic area? And again, this is a book on virtual book tours, and so that is what the focus is of this journal. And so I'm just setting the stage for them. So it's kind of like I'm putting gas in the engine and helping them to start the motor. So having those type of introductory pages that gets people excited before they have to like pull up their shirt sleeves and grab their shovel and dig into the meat of the content. And then on the right-hand side, this is a great example of a journal page or a workbook page. This happens to be in a journal, and that is provide ways for people to track their activity and their results. So for a virtual book tour, they're going to be visiting a lot of different blogs and a lot of different podcasts. And so I created space between each section so it's clear that each of these is a different experience where they can capture each of their tour stops and all of the things that they need to prepare for each tour stop. So you see how having that big space between each section makes it so it's not crammed together and overwhelming, and yet it separates the content enough to make it easily accessible. So as you're creating your journal and workbook, you first want to get the ideas out and onto paper. Then what you can do is step away from the car, go have some tea, go away from the computer for the day, come back the next day or the next work session and look at it from the viewpoint of your readers. Is it clear what I'm asking? Does something need to be defined? Is something missing? So I showed you on an earlier page, I felt like it was missing to say, I'm not sure yet. So those are the types of things you want to look at and try to put on the hat of being one of your students to make it crystal clear so that you can enhance their journey and make things easy for them. All right, so we're going to head over to Canva in just a moment, but I want to provide you with some action steps. I'm going to encourage you to do some brainstorming. Give thought to the type of journal or workbook that you'd like to create. Will it stand alone, or will it be a companion to a course or a book? So there's that little trick, just a little line there. Doesn't it make you want to check off one of those? So that's one of the keys of a user-friendly journal or workbook, is it encourages people to want to dive in and write and check and circle things. What topic are you thinking of for your journal or workbook? What will be the main purpose of your publication? Will it be course content, or will it be a companion? Is it standalone? Will it be your first book that you've published on Amazon so that you can get presence up on Amazon? Is it more than one of those things? And if you need more space, obviously you can add more paper or flip the paper over. And then, this is important, what will readers gain by using your publication? So what I did is, let me just pull up the handouts here, the action page. So what I did is I took the slide at the beginning and the slide that I just went over, the action sheet, the action steps that I just went over, and I turned it into a worksheet. So what I did is I went over to Canva. Hello, Canva, where are you? Here we are. Let me just make my screen a little bit bigger. So I went over to Canva and I created an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So for those of you who are new to Canva, let me just show you how I did that. I'll go to Canva. You set up a free account over on Canva. When you log in, you get to your main page here. And then on the top right, where it says Use Custom Dimensions, click on that. I'm going to type in 8.5 by 11. Actually, you need to pick inches first, because I'm going to choose inches and it's going to change things here. So you want to make sure it says inches and then 8.5 by 11. If you're going to be publishing this, maybe you want it to be 8 by 10 or 5 by 8, but I'm going to make these 8.5 by 11 because these are going to be worksheets that go along with our content here today. And then I click Design. And that will open up a blank page. So then what you can do is you can put, let me just go back to my other page here. Where do I have it? Let me just move it so it's right next to it. All right, so what I did is I added a text box at the top. So how I did that was I go over to Text, and I just clicked on this heading text, and I dragged this to the top, and I wrote my title, centered it, wrote my title, and then I chose the font that I wanted. Then I have my text box in the middle. So I put my cursor in the middle of that page, and I clicked on this second level subheading text. I dragged this up here, and you can see the crosshairs go that it's centered. And then what I'm going to do is drag this out, but I'm going to eyeball it, and you can, I don't know if you can see it, but I see a number where it says 495 by 46. And let's see if this will give me a 46 as well. So that shows me that I have my even margins. And then this is 24-point font, so I'll bring that down to maybe 18. And this font in the center, I will left justify. And then what I did is I copied the text on the slides that I showed you, and I just did a little bit of different formatting and turned it into a worksheet page. Now you'll notice here that I have the same number of lines for each question. That's that continuity that I was talking about. And I have the same amount of space between each question. And that makes this, let me just make this a little smaller so you can see the page at a glance. So that just makes the worksheet just a little yummy. All right, so then to create even more interest, what I did is I added clip art. So the place I go to for clip art is openclipart.org. And this is public domain, and you can just type in flourish or whatever it is that you want, and then you can click. And then what you want to do is you want to download, if it's going to be in a book, you want it to be a big image because you want it to be high resolution. If it's going to be on a slide, it doesn't need to be as high resolution. or if it's going to be for printing out on their computer to print out. So maybe it'll be a medium type of image. So you can play with that. But if you're going to publish it on Amazon, you want the highest resolution where it says big image. You don't want this download. That will download it in a different file format. You want the PNG, which is an image format that can be used on a lot of different platforms. All right, so what I did, let's go back to our blank page. I downloaded some of the flourishes and then I uploaded them. I clicked on uploads here on the far left, upload your own images, and I uploaded this pencil, and then you have this little circle at the bottom. I'm going to just spin that around. I made it a little smaller. And then what I did is on the top right here, this checkerboard, I just made it a little transparent. And I brought it down to about 20. And I'm paying attention to that number because if I add other flourishes, I want it to have the same level of transparency. And then I thought it would be interesting to have a corner type image. So here's a corner type image. I'm going to find that little circle here at the bottom. I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to drag it to the bottom corner, but I'm going to leave a little bit of a margin. And then I'm going to just drag this down so it fits there in the corner. I'm going to click on this checkerboard, and I'm going to bring that transparency down to that same 20, so it has the same level of transparency as my other image. And then when you put it all together, there you are. And if you're watching this as a replay, you have it right there in the members area. So you have access to this worksheet. You can print this out and start brainstorming about your first or your next journal.